welcome to The Explainer. Today we're fundamentally redefining how we look at financial education across the globe. We're actually tracking a massive, frankly overdue shift in how global health organizations, economic experts, and governments are thinking about what it really takes to prepare young people for the realities of adult life.
So, let me ask you this. Is financial literacy really just about money? I mean, we all kind of assume that financial education is purely about numbers, equations, maybe a complex spreadsheet or two. But what if the secret to actual financial success has far less to do with math and literally everything to do with human psychology?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the human skill equation. Look at the WHO psychosocial core competencies. Check out the OECD Learning Compass 2030. Examine U.S. legislative education mandates, and wrap up with designing future-ready citizens.
Right into Section 1, the human skill equation. You see, modern education is finally waking up to this stark reality. We simply cannot effectively teach money without teaching human behavior.
Traditionally, we've focused heavily on what we call hard skills. Calculating compound interest, creating a budget, balancing a ledger. And yes, absolutely, those are important. But what about the human skills? Things like self-awareness, responsible decision-making, or even just resisting peer pressure. Recent educational frameworks are proving that these human life skills are what's actually required to stick to a financial plan in the real world.
Because look, teaching only the mechanics leads to total failure when human psychology enters the picture. Think about it. A student might completely ace a test on structuring a budget. But what happens when they face a relentless barrage of highly targeted social media ads or immense peer pressure to buy the latest limited edition sneaker drop? The math literally goes right out the window. Financial literacy depends entirely on human skills.
Which brings us to Section 2, WHO's psychosocial core competencies. To really understand these human skills, we need to look at how the World Health Organization defines the baseline of human behavior.
So, the crucial point is how the WHO defines psychosocial competence. They call it a person's ability to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of everyday life and maintain mental well-being. Well, financial decisions are, at their very core, everyday demands and psychosocial challenges. They are deeply intertwined with our mental health, our daily stress levels, and our overall well-being.
The WHO actually identifies 10 core skills as the foundation for dealing with life's challenges. If you think about them in a financial context, it clicks immediately. Coping with stress and coping with emotions. Those are the hidden engines of financial well-being. I mean, panic selling during a market dip or retail therapy after a really bad day at work. Those are emotional reactions, not mathematical ones. Even something like effective communication totally dictates how we negotiate a salary or manage household finances with a partner.
Let's move to Section 3, OECD Learning Compass 2030. These baseline health competencies are now being turned into an actionable educational framework by the OECD, which heavily influences policy across Europe, Australia, and beyond.
Listen to how the OECD's International Network on Financial Education defines financial literacy. They say it's not just knowledge of concepts, but explicitly includes the skills, motivation, and confidence to apply such knowledge. They are actively validating that deeply human psychosocial traits are a mandatory half of the whole financial literacy equation.
To do this, the OECD targets 4 core areas for youth aged 15 to 18 so they can fully and safely participate in economic life. They want students to understand the mechanics of money, the foresight required for planning, the complex psychology of risk and reward, and the broader financial landscape, which includes stuff like knowing your rights as a consumer and how to avoid scams.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Think about a simple education fund jar. Saving up isn't some complex mathematical formula, right? It's a long-term behavioral commitment. The OECD framework points out that planning and managing finances over time requires delaying gratification, which is a core psychosocial skill. It's about setting a goal and having the daily discipline to add a coin to that jar instead of spending it on an immediate, fleeting want.
Now, the OECD doesn't expect a 15-year-old to master all of this overnight. No way. They map out competencies across 3 foundational outcomes. It starts with basic awareness, literally just knowing the difference between a need and a want. Then it builds into confidence and motivation, like having the confidence to speak up and complain if you're sold a faulty financial product. And finally, it results in advanced skills and behavior, where they're taking full responsibility for long-term life plans.
Okay, Section 4, U.S. legislative education mandates. Let's shift our focus over to North America and see how these global health philosophies and international frameworks are translating into strict local law.
35.
As of 2024, that is the staggering number of U.S. states that now legally require all high school students to take a personal finance course before graduation. This isn't just a polite suggestion anymore. It's becoming a foundational pillar of the American high school experience. And honestly, that number is expected to keep growing.
And why exactly is this happening? Mostly because of this number, 88%. Surveys show that a massive 88% of U.S. adults strongly support personal finance education in schools. The vast majority of adults look back and just wish they had learned these exact money management and human life skills earlier, before they had to learn them the hard way through mounting debt and crippling financial stress.
Take California as a super concrete example of this massive movement. They recently passed Assembly Bill 2927, which mandates at least one full semester of personal finance instruction, starting with the graduating class of 2030. Legislators are finally realizing that equipping students with these durable skills is absolutely critical for their future independence.
Bringing us to Section 5, Designing Future-Ready Citizens. Let's pull this all together, the WHO's health focus, the OECD's educational framework, and these expanding U.S. legislative mandates into one unified vision. Let's move to and see how this builds our understanding of the future of education. The OECD uses this brilliant metaphor of a compass. The old way of teaching was kind of like giving a student a highly specific map to a totally static world, lots of rote memorization and fixed instructions. But we all know the economy changes, technologies evolve, and financial products constantly shift. The new way, the learning compass, is about giving students the core human and cognitive skills to navigate completely unfamiliar, unpredictable contexts independently. So the absolute core takeaway of this explainer is that knowing how to manage money is only half the equation. Marrying practical math with psychosocial competence is literally the only way to truly build financial independence. When we teach self-awareness right alongside budgeting, students don't just learn to save, they learn to align their spending with their actual life purpose. As we continue to build and refine financial literacy programs around the world, we really have to ask ourselves, are we giving our youth a map to the past or a compass for the future? By fully embracing the human skills behind the numbers, we can ensure for sure it's the latter. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.